in person, as well as those who may be joining us on the Temple YouTube channel this evening. So we'll pick up where we left off, and this is reading number 41. What hero is there equal to Ravana, who with his own hands cut off his heads time and again and offered them to the sacrificial fire with great delight, as will be borne out by Lord Shiva himself? When, as my skulls began to burn, I saw the decree of Providence traced on my brow, and I read that I was going to die at the hands of a mortal, I laughed. For I knew Brahma's prophecy to be false. I am not afraid in my heart even when I remember this, for I am sure Brahma must have traced the decree in his senile dementia. Yet you fool, you repeatedly exalt the might of another hero in my presence, giving up all shame and sense of prestige. Angada replied, yes, there is no one in the whole world so shamefaced as you. You are bashful by your innate disposition, since you never indulge in self-praise, only the story of offering your heads to Lord Shiva and lifting the mountain of Kailash has been foremost in your mind, hence you have told it 20 times over. As for the tale of that strength of arm by which you were able to conquer Sarashrabahu, Bali and Bali, you have kept it secret in your heart. Listen, fool, and brag no more. Can anyone turn a hero by cutting off one's head? A juggler is never called a hero, even though he hacks to pieces his whole body with his own hands. Ponder, O fool, and see for yourself that due to infatuation, moths burn themselves in fire and donkeys carry loads, but they are never termed as heroes. Cease wrangling any more, O wretch. Listen to my advice and have done away with pride. I have not come to you as an envoy, O tin-headed monster. The hero of Raghu's line has sent me from other considerations. The All-Merciful has said again and again, a lion earns no reputation by killing a jackal. Bearing in mind the words of my Lord, I have suffered, O fool, your pungent speech. Otherwise, I would have smashed your jaw and taken back Sita by force. I have judged your strength, O vile enemy of heaven, from the very fact that you carried off another's wife while she was all by herself. You are the Lord of demons and exceedingly haughty, while I am a messenger of one of Sri Rama's servants. If I were not afraid of insulting Sri Rama, I would have wrought this wonder before your very eyes, dashing you to the ground, exterminating your army, laying waste your town, O fool. I would have taken away Janaka's daughter with all your wives. Even if I did so, it would hardly bring me any credit, for it is no act of valor to slay the slain. A follower of the Vama Marga, a man given over to lust, a miser, a grossly stupid fellow, an utterly destitute person, a man suffering from disrepute, an extremely old man, an ever-sick person, one who is always angry, who is hostile to Lord Vishnu, an enemy of the Vedas and saints, he who exclusively nourishes his own body, he who is given to slandering others, he who is a storehouse of sins. These 14 types of persons are no better than corpses, even while they live. Realizing this, O wretch, I refrain from killing you. Arouse my anger no more. On hearing this, the Demon King bit his lips, wrung his hands, and burst out furiously. O vile monkey, you are now bent upon dying. For though small, you have spoken big words. He on whose strength you dare utter such wild and sharp words, O stupid monkey, has no strength, glory, intelligence, or majesty at all. Finding him devoid of merit and self-esteem, his father sent him into exile. Apart from that sorrow, the separation from his wife is telling on him, and above all, he is constantly obsessed with terror of me. The demons devour day and night many such men as he of whose might you are proud. Realize this, O fool, and cease to be perverse. When he thus inveighed against Sri Rama, the monkey chief grew furious with rage, for he who opens his ears to vituperation against Hari or Hara incurs as great a sin as he who kills a cow. Angada, the great monkey, gave a loud yell and furiously struck both his mighty arms against the ground. The earth shook, and members of the assembly were thrown off their seats and took to flight, possessed as they were by the hobgoblin of fear. The tin-headed monster Ravana, too, was about to topple down, but recovered himself and stood up. Yet his most beautiful crowns fell to the ground Some of them he took and set on his heads, while Angada sent the rest flying to the Lord. The monkeys fled when they saw the crowns coming. Good heavens, how is that meteors have begun to fall even during the daytime? Or is it that Ravana in his fury has hurled 4 thunderbolts, which are coming with great speed? The Lord smiled and said, Be not afraid at heart. They are neither meteors nor thunderbolts, nor even the planets Rahu and Ketu. They are the crowns of the tin-headed Ravana, dispatched by Vali's son. They are coming this side. The son of the wind god sprang forward and caught them in his own hands. He then took them to the Lord and placed them before him. The bears and monkeys gazed on them with wonder, for they were dazzling like the sun. At the other end, the tin-headed monster, Ravana, in his fury, indignantly cried to all about him, Seize the monkey, and seizing him forthwith, slay him. Angada smiled to hear this. After killing him, sally forth at once, all you mighty warriors, and devour every bear and monkey wherever you find one. Go and clear the earth of monkeys and capture the 2 ascetic brothers, Rama and Lakshman, alive. The monkey prince Angada got enraged and exclaimed again, Are you not ashamed to wag your tongue like this? Cut your throat and die, you shameless destroyer of your race. Your heart does not crack even on witnessing my strength. O vicious stealer of women, storehouse of impurities, O sense-bound, dull-witted wretch, you babble abuse in a state of delirium, which shows that death has overtaken you, O wretched demon. You will reap its consequences later on when the monkeys and bears belabor you. Even as you utter the words that Sri Rama is immortal, it is strange that your tongues, O proud demon, do not drop off. It is, however, certain that your tongues will drop off along with your heads on the battlefield. How can he be immortal, O tin-headed monster who killed Vali with a single shaft? You are blind with all your 20 eyes. Fie upon your birth, O dullard of ignoble womb. Sri Rama's arrow are all thirsting for your blood, and I spare you only for fear of displeasing him, O vile demon of biting tongue. I am capable of smashing your jaws, but I have no permission from the Lord of the Raghus to do so. Otherwise, I feel so enraged that I would break all your 10 heads, and lifting up Lanka, drop it into the ocean. Your Lanka is like the fruit of the Udumbara tree. While you are like so many unsuspecting insects that reside in it, a monkey as I am, I would lose no time in eating it. But the gracious Rama has not given me the order. Ravana smiled to hear this witty remark. Fool, where do you learn to tell such big lies? Vali never boasted like this. It seems association with the hermits has made you such a vaunting liar. I'm a blustering liar indeed, O monster with 20 arms, if I do not tear out your 10 tongues. Recalling Sri Rama's might, Angada grew indignant and firmly planted his foot in the midst of the whole assembly. If you can but stir my foot, O fool, Sri Rama will return forthwith, and I shall forego Sita as a lost wager. Listen, champions all, exclaimed the 10-headed monster. Seize the monkey by the leg and dash him to the ground. Mriganada, the vanquisher of Indra, and many other stout warriors rose with the delight from their respective seats and rushed with all their might, employing numerous devices, but Angada's foot refused to stir. The warriors therefore resumed their seats with their heads bent low. The enemies of heaven rose again and dashed forward, but the monkey's foot moved no more than a sensually minded striver, O Garuda, is able to uproot the tree of error implanted in his heart. Myriads of great warriors of Meghanada's might arose with joy and swooped down, but the monkey's foot did not budge. They hung their heads and sat down again. The monkey's foot would no more leave the ground than the soul of a saint would give up moral uprightness, even though confronted with numberless obstacles. The enemy's pride left him when he witnessed this. Everyone who saw the monkey's strength was made uneasy at heart. Challenged by the monkey, Ravana himself now rose. Even as Ravana proceeded to grasp his foot, Vali's son broke out. You cannot be saved by clinging to my feet, fool. Why do you not go and clasp Sri Rama's feet? He turned back, much abashed at heart to hear this. All his splendor was gone, and he was robbed of his glory. Even as the moon fades away at midday, with drooping heads, he resumed his seat on the throne, as if despoiled of all his riches. Sri Rama is the soul of the universe and the Lord of life. How can he who is hostile to him find any rest? The universe, Uma, springs into existence and is again dissolved with the mere play of Sri Rama's eyebrows. When he is capable of transforming a blade of grass into a thunderbolt, and a thunderbolt into a blade of grass, how then can a vow of his ambassador prove false? Angada admonished him in various ways, but as his end had drawn near, he would not listen. Having squashed the enemy's pride, the son of King Bali glorified his Lord to his very face and departed, saying, "If I do not slay you after I have sported with you on the battlefield for some time, it will be no use my indulging in self-praise just now." Angada had killed Ravana's son even before he arrived in the latter's presence, and Ravana felt very sad at the news. The demons too grew extremely nervous with fear that when they witnessed the effectiveness of Angada's challenge. Setting at naught Ravana's power, the mighty monkey Bali's son, his body thrilling over with emotion and eyes full of tears, clasped in delight Sri Rama's lotus feet. Perceiving that it was evening, the 10-headed monster returned disconsolately to his palace, where Mandodari again spoke and advised him, "Ponder in your mind, my beloved Lord, and abandon perversity. Your fight with the Lord of Raghus is quite out of order. Sri Rama's younger brother had traced a thin line that, too, you could not cross. Such is your valor, my beloved. Do you expect to conquer him in battle, whose messenger performed such feats, leaping across the ocean in mere sport? That lion among monkeys fearlessly entered Lanka, killed your guards, and laid waste your garden. Nay, he killed Prince Aksha under your very nose, and setting fire to the whole capital, reduced it to ashes. Where did your pride of power remain lurking at that time? Indulge no more in idle boasts, my spouse, and lay my words a little to heart. Do not imagine that the Lord of the Raghus is a mere earthly king, my husband, but know him to be the ruler of the animate and inanimate creation, unequaled in strength. The might of his arrows is known to Marika. But you did not heed his words, taking him to be a mean fellow. In Janaka's court were assembled numberless kings. You too were present there with your incomparable and enormous strength. There, Sri Rama broke Shiva's bow and won the hand of Janaka's daughter. Why did you not conquer him in battle then? The son of Indra tasted of his strength when he caught hold of him and spared his life after destroying one of his eyes. You also witnessed Sopanaka's condition, yet you did not feel much abashed in your heart. My 10-headed Lord, try to recognize him who, having slain Virada, as well as Kara and Dushana, killed Kabanda in mere sport and disposed of Vali with a single arrow, bridge as a mere pastime, and has encamped with his hosts on Mount Suvela. The same merciful Lord, the glory of the solar rays, sent to you in your own interest an ambassador who, like a lion in the midst of a herd of elephants, trampled on your might in open court. Nay, he has for his servants most formidable warriors like Angada and Hanuman, who are so dauntless in battle, and still, my beloved Lord, you speak of him again and again as a mortal. In vain do you carry on your head the burden of pride, attachment, and arrogance. Ah, my Lord, you have turned hostile to Sri Rama, and overtaken as you are by death, the light of wisdom does not dawn on your mind. Death does not smite anyone who with uplifted rod. He simply robs the victim of his piety, strength, reason, and judgment. He alone whom death has approached very near falls a prey to delusion like you. 2 of your sons have been slain, and your capital has been burnt down. Mend error even now, my beloved. Adore the all-merciful Lord of the Raghus, my husband, and win unsullied fame thereby. Hearing the words of his consort, which were piercing like a shaft, he rose and left for his council chamber when the day broke. Forgetting all his fears, he went and occupied his throne, bloated with excess of pride. At this end, Sri Rama summoned Angada, who came and bowed his head at the Lord's lotus feet. The gracious Rama most politely seated him by his side and smilingly said, "O son of Vali, I have great curiosity in my mind, therefore I ask you a question. Tell me the truth, dear child. Ravana is the head of the demon race. He is celebrated throughout the world for his incomparable might. It is rather strange that you tossed no less than 4 of his crowns to me. Tell me, my son, by what device were you able to lay your hands on them? Listen, O omniscient Lord, the delighter of the suppliant. They were no crowns, but the 4 virtues of a king, Sama, Dana, Danda, and Beda, which abide in the heart of a king, so declares the Vedas, my Lord. They are the beautiful pedestals of statesmanship. Remembering this, they themselves came to my Lord, who is a true repository of all statesmanlike virtues. Listen, O Lord of Kosala. Ravana, the 10-headed monster, is lacking in piety, bears a settled aversion to my Lord's feet, and has fallen into the clutches of death. Hence, the aforementioned virtues have forsaken him and sought refuge in you. The noble-minded Rama smiles to hear his most ingenious reply. The son of Vali then gave him a report about the fort of Lanka. When Sri Rama received the news about the enemy, he summoned all his counselors by his side. Lanka has 4 massive gates. Think as to how we should assail them. Thereupon, the monkey lord Sugriva, Jambavan, the king of the bears, Vibhishana, Ravana's brother, invoked their heart and the ornament of the solar race, and putting their heads together, they resolved upon a definite plan. They divided the monkey host into 4 brigades and appointed efficient generals to each. They then summoned all the company commanders and, bringing the Lord's might home to them, issued instructions, hearing which the monkeys rushed forward, roaring like lions. They gladly bowed their heads at Sri Rama's feet, and with mountain peaks in their hands, all the heroes sallied forth, shouting, "Glory to the hero of Raghu's line, the Lord of Kosala." The bears and monkey chiefs roared and assumed a threatening attitude, even though they knew that Lanka was the most impregnable fortress. The monkeys marched forward undaunted, depending on the might of their lord, encompassing all the 4 quarters like a mass of clouds, spreading over the horizon on all sides. They imitated the sound of drums and kettle drums with their mouth. Glory to Rama, glory to Lakshman, and glory to Sugriva. Thus roared the monkeys and bears, and unsurpassed in their great might like so many lions. Lanka became a scene of great uproar. When the highly conceited Ravana heard it, he with a smile said, "Look at the insolence of these monkeys," and summoned the demon host. "The monkeys have crossed over here driven by fate, and my demons are all hungry. God has provided them with a meal even at their home." So saying, the idiot burst into hoarse laugh. "Sally forth in every direction, champions all, and wherever you find the bears and monkeys, seize and devour them all." Uma, Ravana's conceit, was as great as that of the sandpiper, which goes to sleep with its legs in the air and thinks that it will support the heavens in case they fall. Taking his orders, the demon sallied forth, armed with excellent slings, javelins, iron clubs, and maces, fierce axes, pikes, swords, bludgeons, and massive of rocks in their hands. As foolish, carnivorous birds swoop down upon a heap of rubies the moment they see it, and have no idea of the pain they would have on breaking their beaks against it, so did the man-eating monsters rush forth in their folly. Armed with bows and arrows as well as with other weapons of various kinds, a vast cloud of mighty and valiant demons, staunch in battle, climbed up in the battlements of the fort. On the gold battlements they looked like dark clouds hanging on the heights of Mount Meru. Martial drums and tabors sounded, the soul of the warriors was stirred by their crash. Numberless kettle drums and clarinets were also playing, their music cracked the heart of cowards. Advancing further, the demon saw the hosts of monkey and bear champions, exceptionally huge in size, who in their onrush would make no account of rugged valleys, and catching hold of mountains would cleave them asunder and make passage through them. Gnashing their teeth and biting their lips, myriads of warriors on both sides roared and bullied, calling here on Rama and there on Ravana. With shouts of victory on both sides, the fight actually commenced. The demons cast down volleys of mountain peaks which the monkeys would seize with a bound and hurl them back. The fierce monkeys and bears would lay hold of masses of rocks and hurl them against the fort. Darting against their adversary, they would seize him by the leg and dash him to the ground. And in the event of his taking to flight, they would challenge him to a duel again. The most agile and redoubtable monkeys and bears lightly sprang and climbed up the fort, and penetrating the palaces, sang Sri Rama's praises wherever they pleased. Catching hold of a demon each, the monkeys rushed back and jumped down to the ground with the demons beneath themselves on the top. Strengthened by Sri Rama's might, the monkey host crushed the ranks of the demon warriors. They then climbed up the fort here and there and shouted glory to the hero of Raghu's line, who was majestic as the sun. The demon host fled before them like a mass of clouds driven by a strong blast. The city now burst into wails and howls. Children, invalids, and women in particular wept aloud. All joined in calling Ravana's names. Troops had beaten a retreat. The king of Lanka rallied his champions and then exclaimed in fury, "If I hear of anyone turning his back on the battlefield, I will behead him with my own terrible sword. You consumed my all and enjoyed all sorts of luxuries till now, and lo, life has become so dear to you on the field of battle." The champions were all alarmed and put to shame to hear this stern rebuke, and marched against the enemy in great fury. To die in open combat is the glory of a warrior, they thought, and they loved their life no more. Armed with weapons of various kinds, all the champions grapple with their antagonists, challenging them again and again, striking the bears and monkeys with iron bludgeons and tridents. They deprive them of their nerve. Struck with terror, continues Lord Shiva, the monkeys turned tail. All the Uma, they would come out victorious in the end. One exclaimed, "Where are Angada and Hanuman? Where are the mighty Nala, Nila, and Vivida?" At the time Hanuman heard that his troops were breaking, the mighty warrior held his position at the western gate of Lanka, where Meghanada led the defense. The gate, however, would not give way, and Hanuman was faced with a mighty impediment. The son of the wind god grew terribly furious at heart, and the warrior, who was formidable as death, gave a loud roar. He sprang and reached the fort of Lanka, and seizing a rock, he rushed at Meghanada, shattered his chariot, overthrew the charioteer, and kicked Meghanada himself at his chest. Another charioteer, who perceived the distress of the prince, picked him up in his own chariot and speedily brought him home. When Angada heard that the son of the wind god had gone to the fort single-handed, the son of Vali, who was so valiant in battle, reached the fort in a single bound as a monkey would do out of sheer fun. The two monkeys let loose their fury against the enemy on the battlefield. Invoking in their heart the might of Sri Rama, both ran up to Ravana's own palace and proclaimed the victory of Kosala's lord. Holding the edifice in their hands, they overthrew it with every pinnacle. The demon king was dismayed when he saw this. The women beat their breasts with their hands, crying, "This time the two pestilent monkeys have come." Angada and Hanuman frightened them with their monkey-like pranks and proclaimed to them the glories of Sri Ramachandra. Then, grasping each a gold pillar in their hands, the two champions exclaimed, "Let us now begin upon our ravaging job." Presently they roared and fell in the enemy's ranks and began to crush them with their mighty strength of arms, striking some with their foot and slapping another on the face and crying, "Take the consequences of not adoring Sri Rama." The two heroes crushed their adversaries one against another, and pulling off the victims' heads, hurled them with such precision that they dropped in front of Ravana and burst like so many earthen vases full of curds. Whenever the two monkey chiefs caught hold of any great general of the demon host, they would seize him by the leg and send him flying to their lord, Sri Rama. Vibhishana would mention their name, and Sri Rama assigned them, even them, a quarter in his own abode. Men-eating monsters who feasted on the flesh of holy brahmanas thus attain a destiny which is solicited even by yogis, ascetics given to contemplation on God. Uma, continues Lord Shiva, Sri Rama is so tender-hearted and such a storehouse of compassion that he bestows the highest state even on the demons, remembering that they think of him even though in a spirit of hostility. Tell me, Bhavani, who else is so kind? Most dull-witted and utterly wretched are the men who, even on hearing of such a lord, worship him not, disabusing themselves of all delusion. Angada and Hanuman have evidently forced their way into the fort of Lanka. Thus observed Ayodhya's lord. Rampaging in Lanka, the two monkeys look like a pair of mandaras churning the ocean. Having crushed and battered the enemy's ranks by the might of their arm, and perceiving that it was now the close of day, the two champions jumped down without any exertion and came where the Lord was. They bowed their head at the lotus feet of their master, and the Lord of the Raghus was glad at heart to see the valiant warriors. Sri Rama graciously regarded them both, and presently their fatigue was gone, and they felt supremely happy. On learning that Angada and Hanuman had left, the numerous monkey and bear warriors retired from the field, while the demons, recovering their strength at nightfall, sallied forth, calling on their ten-headed lord. At the sight of the demon host, the monkeys turned again, and gnashing their teeth in their fury, the champions closed with their opponents here and there. The two armies stood formidable. The champions, challenging one another every time, came to a grim fight without giving in. The demons were all great warriors and dark in complexion, while the monkeys were stupendous in size and of various color. The two armies were equally strong, and their warriors too equally matched. Displaying their martial feats, they fought with fury and looked like masses of rainy and autumnal clouds driven against one another by a strong wind. The generals Akampana and Atikaya, sons of Ravana, when they perceived their troops losing ground, employed Maya. In an instant it grew pitch dark, and there was a downpour of blood, stone, and ashes. Seeing the dense darkness all around, the monkey host was thrown into disorder. They could not see one another, and there was an outcry everywhere. The Lord of the Raghus understood the secret of it all and summoned Angada and Hanuman. He apprised them of all that was going on and issued necessary instructions to them. The two monkey chiefs rushed forth in a fury as soon as they heard the instructions. The All-Merciful then drew his bow with a smile and forthwith let fly a fiery dart. Lo, there was light all around and no trace of darkness left anywhere. Even as doubts disappeared with the dawn of spiritual enlightenment, the bear and monkeys were relieved of their fatigue and rid of all fear when they saw light again. And pressed on exultantly, Hanuman and Angada thundered on the field of battle, and the demons fled at their menacing roar. But the bears and monkeys seized the demon warriors in their flight and dashed them to the ground, performing marvelous feats of strength even as they did so, or catching them by the leg, hurled them into the ocean where alligators, serpents, and fish snapped them up and devoured them. Some were killed, some more were wounded, while others scampered away and clambered the fort. Having thus scattered the hostile forces, the bears and monkeys gave a loud roar. Perceiving that it was now night, all the 4 divisions of the monkey host returned to the camp of Kosala's lord. The monkeys were all relieved of their fatigue the moment Sri Rama cast his benign look on them. There, in Lanka, the 10-headed monster sent for all his ministers and told them about the warriors that had been killed in action. The monkeys have disposed of half our forces. Tell me at once what counsel should be adopted. Thereupon, the council says, a very aged demon, who was Ravana's maternal grandfather and an eminent counselor, spoke words of highly ethical polity. Listen, my son, to a few words of advice from me. Ever since you carried off Sita and brought her here, there have been ill omens, more than one can tell. By opposing Sri Rama, whose glory has been the theme of the Vedas and Puranas, none has ever enjoyed happiness. And that completes our reading of the Ramāyana this evening, and we'll resume next Saturday at 5 p.m.